The mistake that shook the galaxy. The stars were calm, scattered like diamonds across endless space. For the humans aboard the exploration vessel Odyssey, it was supposed to be a simple mission. They weren't soldiers, not conquerors, just explorers, searching for new systems, maybe new friends, maybe new resources. Captain Elias leaned back in his chair, sipping recycled coffee. "Plot us a course to the nearest habitable system," he ordered casually. His crew obeyed, unaware that their new route had just brushed the invisible border of the largest power in the galaxy, the Galactic Empire. No alarms rang, no warnings flashed. To the humans, it was just empty space. But to billions across the stars, it was the most dangerous line anyone could cross. Far away in the Empire's grand capital, alarms blared inside a towering fortress of steel and crystal. A commander of the Imperial fleet narrowed his glowing eyes. "Unauthorized ships. Detected. Species human." He hissed the word as if it were an insult. "Prepare intercept." Within hours, the void was filled with enormous warships, black hulls bristling with weapons, each one large enough to blot out the stars. The humans had wandered into the lion's den without even realizing it. A junior officer on the Odyssey pointed at the screen, pale with shock. "Captain, incoming contacts. Dozens. No. Hundreds." Elias leaned forward, scanning the swarm of enemy signals. "That's a lot of ships," he muttered. He didn't shout, didn't panic. He only raised an eyebrow and sighed. "Well, looks like we found someone." To the humans, it was a surprise encounter. To the Empire, it was a declaration of war. The lead Imperial dreadnought opened a channel. A booming voice filled with arrogance thundered across space. "Human ships, you have trespassed into Imperial space. Power down immediately. Surrender your vessels and kneel before the glory of the Empire. You will live only if you obey." The crew of the Odyssey looked at their captain. Surely now he would panic, maybe beg, maybe try to escape. Instead, Elias scratched his beard and said calmly, "Tell them thanks for the welcome, but no, we're good." Gasps filled the control room. "Captain," one officer started. Elias shrugged. "What? We didn't come here to bow. We came to explore. If they don't like that, they'll just have to deal with it." The message was sent. Silence followed. On the Imperial flagship, the Council of Admirals was stunned. No species had ever spoken to them like that. Normally, intruders begged for mercy. Entire civilizations had bent the knee without a fight. But these humans, they acted as if the Empire was nothing more than a traffic stop. In the shadows of the council chamber, alien nobles hissed in disbelief. "They don't understand who we are. They mock us. They must be crushed." The High Commander slammed his clawed fist on the table. "No, they must be shown." Back on the Odyssey, the crew watched as the massive fleet surrounded them, weapons glowing, ready to fire. The ship's systems buzzed with warnings. Yet still the humans did not panic. Lieutenant Mara, the youngest on the crew, whispered, "Captain, we're outnumbered. We can't fight this." Elias gave her a steady look. "Then we won't fight, but we won't bow either." The first Imperial warship hailed again. This time the voice was sharper, angrier. "Humans, you stand before the Eternal Empire. Your place is on your knees. Submit, or be erased." Elias smirked. "Erase us? You don't even know us yet." The crew chuckled nervously, half in fear, half in admiration. Somehow their captain's calm made them calm too. Across the galaxy, word spread quickly. The Empire had encountered a new race. Reports traveled through trade routes, into colonies, across noble houses. Everyone asked the same question: what are humans, and why are they not afraid? The answer came in whispers. Traders told of a small fleet that refused to kneel. Soldiers spoke of humans who stared into the guns of the Empire and didn't flinch. The Empire, for the first time in centuries, faced something it did not understand: defiance without fear. In the capital, the emperor himself was informed. His many eyes glowed with rage. "Humans," he said, tasting the word like poison. "If they will not kneel, they will burn." But far from his throne, aboard the Odyssey, Captain Elias stood on the bridge, arms crossed, watching the great fleet surround them. He smiled, slightly. "Send this message," he told his crew. "We're explorers from Earth. We don't want trouble, but we don't bow. Not to kings, not to councils, not to empires. If you want to talk, we'll talk. If you want to fight, you'll see what happens." The crew stared at him wide-eyed. Some were terrified, some were inspired. But all of them felt the same thing deep inside. Pride. The message was sent. The galaxy would never be the same again. The Council's warning. The Galactic Empire did not wait long. Within days of the humans' arrival, word spread across star systems like wildfire. A new species had entered Imperial space and they refused to bow. To the humans, it was an accidental crossing. To the Empire, it was unforgivable. On the capital world of Atheris Prime, the Council of the Empire gathered inside a hall so vast, it seemed to touch the clouds. The chamber shimmered with gold and steel, every seat filled with alien nobles and commanders, their jeweled robes glowing under the light of suspended suns. At the center, a circular platform waited for the accused, and into that chamber walked the humans. Captain Elias led the group, his boots echoing on the polished floor. Behind him walked Lieutenant Mara and two other officers, their uniforms simple compared to the glittering robes around them. They looked small, outnumbered, and completely out of place. Yet their eyes carried no fear. Whispers slithered through the chamber. "Those are the humans? They don't kneel? They look ordinary." The high speaker of the council rose, his voice booming across the hall. "Species designated. Human. You have trespassed into the most sacred space of the Empire. Do you understand the crime you have committed?" Elias raised his head calmly. "We understand we crossed a border. We didn't come to cause trouble. We're explorers. That's all." The chamber erupted in hisses and growls. To speak so casually to the council was unheard of. The high speaker slammed his staff on the ground. Silence. The hall quieted, but the air buzzed with rage. He glared at the humans. "Explorers do not march fleets into the Empire. Your very presence is an insult. The law is clear. Trespassers must kneel and swear loyalty, or face destruction." Every eye in the chamber turned to the humans. Surely, now they would surrender. Surely they would kneel like so many others before them. Instead, Elias shrugged. "We don't kneel. Not on Earth, not here." The chamber gasped. Nobles shouted, commanders hissed, claws tapped against metal seats. The sound grew like a storm, filled with outrage. Lieutenant Mara stepped forward, her voice steady but sharp. "We didn't come here to kneel, we came here to learn, to trade, to meet new people. If that's a crime, then maybe your laws are broken." The room froze in shock. No one had ever spoken to the council this way. The high speaker's eyes narrowed. "You dare question the Empire?" "Yes," Elias said simply. The silence that followed was deafening. Then came the threats. An admiral in dark armor rose, his voice a growl. "Your ships are small. Your fleets are weak. The Empire spans 10,000 worlds. If you do not bow, we will erase your kind from the stars." Another noble hissed. "Your Earth will burn before it is ever known." But Elias stood steady, his hands behind his back. His calm voice cut through their anger. "You could erase us. You have the power, I'm sure. But here's the thing. You won't. Because you're afraid. You don't understand us. And you don't understand why we're not afraid of you." Gasps spread again, but this time it was not only outrage, it was curiosity. Some of the lower delegates from smaller oppressed species leaned forward, their eyes widened with something new. Hope. The high speaker raised his staff again. "Enough. Humans, hear the judgment of the Empire. You will return to your world, you will bring tribute, and you will kneel, fail, and you will be crushed." Elias turned his head slightly, scanning the crowd, His eyes lingered on the fearful faces of the smaller species, the ones who had long been silent under the Empire's rule. Then he looked back at the speaker. "No," he said quietly but firmly. "We won't kneel." The chamber erupted into chaos. Nobles screamed for war. Commanders demanded punishment. The speaker's voice thundered over them all. But through the storm of rage, the humans stood calm, unbent. Mara leaned closer to Elias, whispering, "Captain, did we just declare war on the galaxy?" Elias allowed himself a small smile. "No, they declared war on themselves. They just don't realize it yet." Outside the Grand Hall, word spread quickly. The humans had defied the Council. They had looked the Empire in the eye and refused to bow. Some races trembled in fear, knowing punishment would come soon. But others whispered in secret corners, their hearts stirring. If the humans could stand, maybe they could too. Pressure and threats. The humans left the Grand Council chamber in silence. Behind them, the voices of angry nobles still echoed, demanding punishment, demanding war. But outside, in the wide corridors of polished steel, the humans walked as if nothing had happened. Captain Elias led the group with steady steps. Lieutenant Mara followed close, her eyes scanning every shadow. Imperial guards lined the walls, their glowing armor reflecting the light, their hands gripping weapons. At any moment, the humans could have been arrested, or worse. But no order came, not yet. Instead, messages began to pour into the humans' ship, the Odyssey. Threats, warnings, offers from the Empire, each one more arrogant than the last. "You will return to Earth and pay tribute. You will deliver your fleets to serve the Empire. You will kneel, or your world will be burned to ash." The humans listened. And each time, Captain, Elias gave the same reply. No. The Empire grew furious. Soon, intimidation followed. The first sign came in orbit around a quiet moon. The Odyssey was shadowed by an Imperial cruiser, so massive it looked like a floating city, its weapons locked on, its voice booming across the comms. "You are insects," the alien captain sneered. "You will bow now, or we will erase you, where you stand." The crew froze, hearts pounding. Their ship was tiny compared to the monster before them. One shot could end them. But Elias only leaned back in his chair, calm as ever. "You'd erase us over an accident? Seems wasteful." The alien captain snarled. "Wasteful? You speak of waste when your world will burn?" Elias smirked. "That's the problem with empires. You think everyone must kneel. We don't kneel. Not to kings. Not to you. If you want us gone, then pull the trigger. Otherwise, stop wasting my time." The comm went silent. The cruiser did not fire. It shadowed them for hours, then drifted away. Mara whispered, "Captain, they could have destroyed us." "Yes," Elias said, sipping his cold coffee. "But they didn't. And that tells us something important." "What?" "They're testing us, and they're afraid of what happens if we don't break." The pressure increased. On trade stations, human envoys were isolated, refused supplies, insulted by local governors. On distant colonies, propaganda spread. Humans were reckless, dangerous, doomed. The Empire wanted to turn the galaxy against them before they could take root. And still, the humans did not bow. Then came the greatest test. The Empire summoned the humans once more, this time not to the full council but to a private chamber heavy with shadows. Only a few high-ranking figures sat on the dais, commanders, nobles, and one of the Emperor's chosen emissaries. The emissary leaned forward, his many eyes glowing like embers. His voice was soft, almost kind. "Humans, you are new. You are small, but you have spirit. The Empire admires spirit." He paused, letting the words linger. "Serve us, and you will prosper. Kneel, and Earth will thrive under our rule." Mara narrowed her eyes. "And if we don't?" The emissary's smile turned sharp. "Then Earth will not exist long enough to regret it." Silence hung heavy in the chamber. The threat was clear. Captain Elias stood slowly. He looked straight into the emissary's glowing eyes. His voice was calm, but each word carried steel. You talk about spirit. You talk about rule. Let me make this clear. Humanity has lived under kings. We've seen empires rise and fall. We've buried them all. And we'll bury yours too if you try us, the emissary hissed, his eyes flaring. Arrogant creatures. You have no fleet, no armies compared to ours. What gives you the right to stand so tall? Elias leaned forward, his gaze unshaken. Because we remember what others forget. Freedom is worth more than survival. If you demand we bow, then you've already lost. Because we won't. Ever. The chamber erupted. Nobles shouted. Commanders slammed their fists. The emissary's hiss turned to a growl. Then prepare yourselves. The Empire does not tolerate defiance. Elias turned his back on them and walked out. His officers followed, their steps steady despite the storm behind them. Outside the chamber, Mara finally spoke. Her voice was tight, almost trembling. Captain, do you realize what you've done? They're going to come for us. With everything. They have. Elias looked at her, his face calm. Yes, but we've also done something else. What's that? He glanced at the distant towers of the capital city, where oppressed species whispered in secret corners, watching the humans with wide eyes. We showed them that the Empire can be defied. And now, the galaxy knows it too. In the shadows, whispers grew stronger. Traitors carried the stories. Small races spoke the words in hidden halls. The humans do not kneel, and those words were more dangerous than any weapon the Empire had. The test of fire. The Empire had shown patience long enough. Humans had stood before their council and refused to kneel. They had ignored threats, laughed at intimidation, and spoken of freedom as if it were a shield. The Emperor's generals decided it was time to break them, not with full war, not yet, but with a demonstration, the kind that had crushed dozens of young species before. A single overwhelming fleet would confront the humans, show them the difference in power, and force them to finally kneel. The human ship Odyssey drifted near a barren moon, its crew quiet, but alert. They had received the message. An Imperial fleet was on the way. Lieutenant Mara stood beside Captain Elias on the bridge, her hands trembling slightly as she studied the tactical screen. The enemy signals were approaching, dozens of warships, massive and bristling with weapons. They're sending everything at us, Mara whispered. Elias shook his head. Not everything. Just enough to scare us. This is theater, not extermination. They expect us to break. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Against so many ships, their small fleet looked like toys. Captain, one officer said carefully, what if this time they don't hold back? Elias smiled faintly. Then we show them what happens when you corner humans. The first Imperial ships arrived, black silhouettes blotting out the stars. Their hulls were carved with cruel markings, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. The lead dreadnought broadcast a message across space. Humans, you are surrounded. You are outnumbered. This is your last chance. Power down and kneel before the Empire, or your story ends here. The crew of the Odyssey waited for Elias's response. He stood tall, his voice calm. Empire, let me be clear. We don't kneel. Not to kings, not to councils, not to you. If you want us gone, come and try. Gasps spread across the bridge. He had just dared them to fight. The dreadnought's reply was immediate. So be it. The first barrage lit up, space energy beams slamming into human shields. The Odyssey shook, consoles sparking, alarms blaring. Smaller human ships darted into formation, weaving between incoming fire. The Empire expected them to scatter and run. Instead, they stayed calm. Target their flanks, Elias ordered. Stay small, stay fast. Don't fight like them. Human ships moved like knives through the dark, striking quickly then vanishing into asteroid shadows. They were outgunned, but not outsmarted. Every time an Imperial cruiser tried to corner them, the humans slipped away, leaving it exposed to return. Fire. Mara's hands flew over her console. We're too weak to win a straight fight, Captain, but we can bleed them. Exactly, Elias said. Make them pay for every inch. On the Imperial flagship, commanders grew frustrated. Their massive fleet was meant to crush resistance easily, but the humans refused to play by the rules. "They're gnats," one admiral snarled. "Why can't we swat them?" Another growled. "They fight like predators, not prey." The High Commander slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Then burn them. Show the galaxy what happens when a species dares defy us." The order went out. Imperial warships unleashed full firepower, turning the battlefield into a storm of plasma and light. Asteroids shattered, moons cracked, and still the humans danced between the shots, striking where the armor was thin. On the Odyssey, Mara reported breathlessly, "We've taken out 2 cruisers, 3 damaged, but shields won't hold much longer." The ship shook violently, sparks raining from the ceiling. Elias gripped the console. "Hold steady. Every second we stand, we prove they're not invincible." Another barrage rocked the ship, throwing crew to the floor. A hull breach sealed with emergency fields. The girl at comms shouted, "Captain, they're broadcasting again." The Imperial voice thundered, "You delay the inevitable, you cannot win. Surrender now and perhaps your species will be spared." Elias stood straight, his voice sharp. "You think this is about winning? It's not. It's about showing you something you've forgotten." He paused, letting silence stretch. "Humans don't bow. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever." The battle raged for hours. The human fleet was battered, their ships scarred, but they refused to break. Each time an Imperial ship fell, whispers spread across the galaxy. Traitors carried the news. Minor races listened in secret. The message traveled faster than light. The humans fought the Empire, and they did not kneel. Finally, the Imperial fleet pulled back, not destroyed, not defeated, but humiliated. Their demonstration had failed. The humans still stood. On the bridge of the Odyssey, the crew sat in silence, exhausted, their uniforms burned and bloodied. Yet their eyes carried something new. Pride. Mara sank into her chair, her voice a whisper. "Captain, we survived." Elias nodded. "And that's enough. Survival is defiance." He looked out at the stars where the enemy had retreated. They wanted to scare us. Instead, they showed the galaxy that humans don't bow. And now, others will remember that too. Far away, in hidden corners of the galaxy, oppressed races whispered the words again and again. The humans fought the Empire. The humans stood tall. The humans did not kneel. And for the first time in centuries, the Empire felt something it had, not known in generations. Doubt allies in the shadows. The battle was over, but the war was only beginning. The Odyssey limped through dark space, her hull scarred, shields cracked, and engines groaning. The crew worked in silence, repairing what they could. They had survived the Empire's demonstration, but the cost was heavy. Every man and woman on board knew the Empire would come, again, and next time they would not hold back. Yet even in the silence of exhaustion there was pride. They had stood against the greatest power in the galaxy and refused to bow. That alone was victory. Days later, a faint signal reached the Odyssey. It was weak, hidden under layers of static, almost like someone was afraid to be heard. "Human vessel, do you hear us?" Mara adjusted the comms, her brow furrowed. "It's not Imperial, it's someone else." The captain leaned closer. "Put them through." The voice that answered was trembling, hurried. "We are not the Empire. We are not their slaves. Please, meet us. We cannot speak long." The signal cut off. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. It could be a trap. The Empire was clever, and they had already tried tricks before. But Elias's expression hardened. "Plot the course," he said. "If someone's willing to risk contacting us, we have to hear them." The meeting took place on a forgotten mining station orbiting a dying star. The Odyssey approached cautiously, weapons ready. Inside, the corridors were empty, silent, covered in dust. But in the central chamber they found them aliens, thin, weary, their eyes filled with both fear and hope. Their robes were torn, their hands shaking as they looked at the humans. One stepped forward. His skin shimmered faintly in the dim light. "You are the humans?" Elias nodded. "That's us. Who are you?" The alien bowed his head. "We are the Kareth. For generations we have lived under the Empire's heel. We work their mines. We fight in their armies. We give our children to their service. We thought no one could stand against them." His voice shook. "But then we heard of you." Mara tilted her head. "Heard what?" "That you refused to bow," the Kareth whispered. His eyes glowed with awe. "That you fought and lived. That you looked at the Empire and did not kneel." The chamber stirred as more Kareth stepped forward. One clutched a small child, another bore scars across his face. Their voices joined in hushed tones. "You are proof. You show us they can bleed. You give us hope." Elias looked around the room. These weren't warriors. They were survivors, people who had been broken, but not destroyed. He felt the weight of their words. "You want us to fight for you," he said. The Kareth leader shook his head. "Not for us. With us. If we rise alone, the Empire will crush us. But if we rise together, maybe the galaxy can be free." Back on the Odyssey, the officers gathered in the war room. The conversation was tense. Mara frowned. "Captain, they're asking us to spark a rebellion against the largest empire in history. If we say yes, Earth becomes a target. Billions of lives at risk," another officer argued. "But if we say no, the Empire will keep ruling forever. And when they come for us again, no one will stand with us." Silence fell. All eyes turned to Elias. He stood with his hands behind his back, staring at the star map. Slowly he spoke. "We didn't come here to start a war, but the war found us. And now, we have a choice. Do we kneel? Or do we stand, not just for ourselves, but for everyone too afraid to stand alone?" The crew exchanged glances. Fear battled with pride in their eyes. Finally, Mara exhaled and nodded. "If we bow now, Earth will live as a slave forever. But if we stand..." She looked at the others. "Maybe the galaxy remembers what freedom means." Elias's voice was firm. "Then we stand." Word spread quickly through secret channels, to oppressed worlds, to hidden rebels, to slaves who had never dreamed of freedom. The humans had not only refused the Empire, they were willing to fight back. In hidden places across the stars, whispers grew louder. The humans do not kneel. The humans are not afraid. The humans will fight, and with each whisper, hope awakened in the galaxy. But the Empire was not blind. From his throne on Atheris Prime, the Emperor heard the rumors. His eyes blazed with fury. Rebellion stirs, and it is because of them. The humans. His voice turned into a roar that shook the chamber. "Then let the galaxy watch as we break them. Let all see what happens to those who defy the Empire." Across the stars, fleets were mobilized. The greatest armada in centuries prepared to march, not against rebels, not against old enemies, but against one small world called Earth. And far away, aboard the Odyssey, Captain Elias looked out into the endless night. His voice was quiet, but his words carried fire. "They wanted to test us, now we'll test them, and the galaxy will see who really breaks." Humanity's refusal. The Empire did not wait long. Within weeks of the humans' defiance, the Emperor himself issued a summons. A message was carried across star systems, translated into 100 tongues, and broadcast to every outpost, colony, and fleet. The humans will stand before the Emperor. They will kneel, or they will burn. The Odyssey was escorted under heavy guard to the capital world once more. This time, the council chamber was filled beyond measure. Nobles, generals, governors, and envoys from dozens of subject races crowded the balconies. They had come to see the strange newcomers brought to heel. At the center, on a throne of black crystal, sat the Emperor. His body was massive, his many eyes glowing like embers, his voice a low rumble that carried across the hall. "Humans," he said slowly. "You trespassed. You defied. You bled my fleets. And yet you stand here still, proud." He leaned forward, his claws curling. "Now you will kneel. Swear loyalty to me. Swear obedience to the Empire. And Earth will live. Refuse, and your world will burn before the stars." The hall fell silent. Every eye turned to the humans standing on the small central platform. Captain Elias stepped forward. His uniform was simple, patched from battle, yet he carried himself as if he were the one on the throne. Behind him, Mara and the other officers stood tall, their faces calm. Elias's voice rang out clear. "You ask us to kneel. You ask us to trade freedom for survival. We cannot. We will not." A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. Nobles hissed, commanders shouted, the Emperor's eyes narrowed. Mara stepped forward, her voice sharp. "We didn't come here to start wars. We came here to explore. But everywhere we've gone, all we've seen are chains. You demand tribute. You demand obedience. You crush those who dare speak. Maybe others have bowed to you, but humanity won't." The Emperor's voice thundered. "You think your tiny fleets can resist me? I rule 10,000 worlds. I hold the stars in my hand. You are nothing." Elias met his gaze without flinching. "We've lived under kings. We've fought empires before. And do you know what always happens? They fall. Every single one of them. You will too." The hall erupted in outrage. Nobles screamed for execution. Generals demanded the humans' heads. The Emperor raised his hand, and silence returned, heavy and dangerous. "You are bold," he said. "Bold and foolish. No one defies the Empire and lives." From the balconies, however, voices began to stir. Quiet at first, then louder. Delegates from smaller species whispered to one another. They said no. They refused. They spoke for all of us. The Emperor heard it too, his many eyes blazed with fury. "Enough. I will crush your world and silence your defiance forever." But Elias did not back down. He looked up at the balconies, at the oppressed peoples watching with wide eyes, and spoke louder. "Listen to me. We are not special. We are not stronger than you. But we remember one thing. No empire lasts forever. If you want freedom, stop bowing. Stand with us. The Empire cannot silence us all." The chamber froze. For a moment, even the Emperor himself was silent. Then chaos erupted again, shouts, cries, whispers of rebellion. Some envoys covered their faces in fear, others clenched their fists in hope. The guards tightened their grip on weapons, ready to strike. The Emperor's roar silenced them all. "Take them away. They will be executed. Their world will burn." But before the guards could move, Elias raised his voice one last time. His words cut through the chamber like a blade. "We are human. We don't kneel. And even if you destroy us, our refusal will echo across the stars. You can kill a people, but you cannot kill an idea. And the idea is freedom." The guards dragged the humans back toward their ship. Nobles hissed, commanders cheered for blood. But in the shadows among the balconies, oppressed envoys whispered a new word to one another. Freedom. And in secret corners across the galaxy, the story spread faster than the Empire could silence it. The humans refused the Emperor himself. It too was a spark, small, fragile. But sparks could grow into fire. On the Odyssey, Mara leaned against the console, her voice tight. "Captain, do you realize what you've done? They'll come for Earth. For all of us." Elias nodded, his face calm. "Yes, they will, but we've already won something greater." Mara frowned. "What's that?" He looked out into the stars, his eyes steady. "We gave the galaxy permission to stand." The galaxy learns to stand. The order was given. The Emperor's roar still echoed in the chamber, Execute them, burn their world. But the humans were not afraid. Dragged back to the Odyssey under heavy guard, they held their heads high. Soldiers who pushed them forward expected tears, begging, maybe despair. Instead, they saw calm eyes and steady steps. It unsettled them. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Captain Elias looked out at the endless night. His voice was low, but his crew heard him clearly. They think fear is power. Let's show them what happens when fear dies. The Empire moved quickly. An armada was assembled. Thousands of ships, the greatest fleet in centuries, all aimed at one target: Earth. Across the stars, propaganda spread like wildfire. See what happens to those who refuse. Watch as humanity is erased. The Empire wanted the galaxy to learn a lesson, but the galaxy was already learning something else. Whispers had spread from the council chamber to every corner of space. Whispers of humans who stood tall, humans who told the Emperor himself, no. On mining worlds, slaves passed the story in secret tunnels. On trading routes, merchants whispered it to one another. In hidden rebel cells, the name human became a spark of courage. The Odyssey limped home to Earth. But instead of despair, they found determination. The people of Earth did not cower when told of the threat. They did not panic. They prepared. Fleets were armed. Defenses were built. Soldiers trained with grim resolve. Humanity was small compared to the Empire, but their spirit burned bright. At the United Earth Assembly, leaders spoke to billions through the stars. The Empire demands our submission. They demand we kneel. We will not. Earth stands free. And if we fall standing. The words spread beyond Earth. Across alien worlds, oppressed peoples listened in silence, then clenched their fists in hope. The day came. The Empire's armada arrived at the edge of Earth's system, their ships blotting out the stars. It was a force meant not just to destroy, but to terrify. On the Odyssey, Elias stood at the front of the fleet. His voice carried across every human channel. This is our stand. We may be outnumbered, we may be outgunned. But today, the galaxy is watching, and they will see that humanity does not kneel. Mara smiled faintly at her console. Then let's give them a show. The battle began with fire and thunder. Imperial warships unleashed storms of plasma, tearing into Earth's defenses. Human ships darted between the giants, striking weak points, vanishing into the dark. They could not match the Empire in size, but they fought with speed, cunning, and courage. Every second they held was defiance. Then something unexpected happened. Ships appeared on the flanks. Not human, not Imperial. The Kareth, the miners who had begged for hope, arrived first. Their old freighters had been turned into warships, crude but determined. Humans, their leader broadcast, "You are not alone. We stand with you." Moments later, more signals lit up the void. The Ritha, the Thal, the oppressed races of the Empire, species who had never dared resist, were arriving one by one. They threw themselves into the fight, inspired by humanity's refusal. The Imperial fleet faltered. On the throne world, the Emperor's rage shook the halls. Traitors, all of them, crush them. But his commands could not silence the truth. For every ship that fell, 2 more appeared from the shadows. The galaxy was awakening. On the Odyssey, the crew fought with everything they had. Elias barked orders. Mara's hands flew across the console, and the crew cheered each time another Imperial ship exploded. Still, the cost was heavy. Human ships burned, allies fell, and Earth's surface trembled under orbital bombardments. But they did not kneel. As the battle raged, a message spread across the galaxy. Faster than light, faster than fear. The humans stood against the Empire. The humans fought. The humans refused to bow. At last, the Imperial fleet began to fracture. Commanders argued, nobles panicked, ships turned away from the slaughter. The Emperor roared in fury, but for the first time in centuries, the Empire's iron grip began to crack. The Odyssey, battered and burning, still flew at the front of the fight. Elias looked at his crew, at the exhausted faces around him, and spoke quietly. Remember this moment. Even if we fall today, the galaxy will remember too. Humanity does not kneel. The battle ended not with Earth's destruction, but with the Empire's retreat. Not total victory, not yet, but something greater. Proof that the Empire could be resisted. The galaxy had seen it, and the galaxy would not forget. In the quiet after the storm, Mara stood beside Elias on the bridge. Earth's skies were scarred, but still alive. "Captain," she whispered, "what now?" Elias looked at the stars, his voice steady. "Now? Now the galaxy learns to stand, and we stand with them." The girl at comms wiped tears from her eyes. "We're just one world. Captain, can we really change everything?" Elias smiled faintly. "One world is enough. One word is enough. No. That's all it takes to start a fire. Far away, in forgotten mines and dark colonies, in hidden stations and rebel cells, people repeated that fire over and over. The humans refused. The humans stood tall. The humans gave us courage. And for the first time in generations, the Empire felt not just anger. It felt fear, because the galaxy had learned to stand.